first of all, I just, like I said, it's an honor to be invited to give this presentation. And I've known the Spikes for a long time. You guys have done great work. And it's been an honor to have been worked as a judge in Israel since 2006. So one thing I've been told when I started doing the judging is, and especially by parents saying, well, what is this chairman's award? We're never going to be able to win the championship chairman's award, you know, that, and I just, I keep telling them it just takes time. And they thought, well, you know, no non-American team will get it. Well, since then, 2 teams from Australia and 1 from Canada have entered the Hall of Fame. And then in 2008, RoboActive 2096 was a championship finalist in Houston, sitting next to, you know, Avihu. I felt a lot of emotion listening to Hatikva at that time. So, but I well know the agony of awaiting judgment. One of the teams I mentored, my original team that my boys went through, Technotix, we won the Regional Chairman's Award every year from 2003 through 2009. And then in 2009, this happened. So if I can get the, we got Chairman's Award. I'm trying to get to the video, but that's not helping me right at the moment. So the point here is, you know, people ask, you know, I see this in Chief Delphi and other places, what's the secret sauce? And, you know, there is no rubric. What we ask for is for teams to do a lot of things. And so what we look at is the impact of your team on your students, their school, the partnership with the mentors and sponsors, and the community at large. We recognize sustained excellence. Remember, it took our team, Technotix, 7 years. So we look at what impact the team has given their resources. So it's just not, don't figure because another team is much bigger and has more money that it's more likely to win. Not so. It's what you are able to do. So it's not about the robot. We keep saying that. You guys know that. So it's not about the robot. So the pieces of it are the submission, and this is important. And it's, you know, I've been a championship chairman's judge, and so what you guys put down here is important. We ask questions, a lot of questions. You know, assessing the impact of first on team members, describing your community, your unique opportunities and your circumstances, your methods for spreading the message, your initiatives with other teams, and also how you help start teams, the initiatives with young people overall outside of FIRST to inspire them to be science and technology innovators and leaders. Your efforts to promote equity, diversity, and inclusion. These are important things because there are folks, you know, and Israel is an example of, you know, both inclusion and diversity. And those examples are important ones to bring out, which may not be apparent to you as really significant, is really something to judges who are outside of Israel. How you plan to continue the initiatives in the future. That's important. We want to see continuity. We want to see you succeed year after year. And there's strategies to recruit, and retain, and engage your sponsors within the last 3 years. We also want you to look at yourselves closely to see what needs improvement and what you're doing in those regards. Nobody's perfect. We all have weaknesses. And it's an important sign of growth and maturity to recognize those. So we overall want to see what are your goals, you know, to fulfill the mission of FIRST, because every team approaches it differently, and that's okay. And we want to see the progress made towards those goals. So that's the executive summary. Those are the quick answers. The next thing is the essay. And this is important, not to duplicate the information in the summary, but expand on those points. We want a real sense of what your team's all about. You tell us how it's structured, numbers of students and mentors and sponsors, but how it gets together. And the activities during the last 3 years are important. And then look at the last 12 to 18 months to really give a sense of what your team is doing and what it's all about. We want to know, what I was getting at is that the essay, we really want to get a sense of what your team's all about, the flavor of your team, and how you're going to describe it. It's really good to take the rough draft, give it to some people who are not in the team, and see how well it communicates what you want it to communicate. And that's sometimes the best feedback you can get. So the interview, again, the same sort of thing. We don't give practice interviews by the judges, but we do want you to practice and also use folks like your drama teachers and others to give you feedback on how to make your presentation more effective. So I assume it'll be the same this coming year as last, that you provide your video at the interview. We're limiting it last year to 12 minutes, 7 minutes for the presentation, including setup. So you want to be ready to go. 5 minutes for questions. Only 3 team members can be present. 1 adult member can be present as a silent observer. And that should be the basis of feedback for the interview to the team members, and no recordings. So the feedback, we will give separate feedback on the submission only, but not the interview. So that's why we want your mentor to, if present, to give that feedback. So that's the Chairman's Award. But there's lots of other awards, because there's all sorts of activities that we really want to recognize. You guys do a lot of hard work. Chairman's Award is the mission of FIRST, but there's lots of other things that you're doing and learning. So we want to, as judges, we have to represent, we do represent FIRST to the outside world. I give elevator pitches to engineers and others, trying to recruit them for judging, as well as recruiting companies to help sponsor teams. We are role models for you guys. We're professionals, engineers, teachers, financial folks, doctors. We want to represent career opportunities to students. And you guys should feel free to also to ask judges in the pits during interviews about what we do and how we got there. Believe me, judges will really love to talk to you about that. So now this is the important part. We need to figure out as judges the story behind each team and each robot. And so we need to put together the data we have to judge all of you guys and the robots. So, but it's important that the team members need to be able to tell the story about your team. And we understand that you have sub teams, mechanical teams, control teams, and others. And so not everybody's going to be conversant on, discussing the algorithm used to calculate distance to a target, but all students should be aware of what their team is doing to promoting STEAM to their school, the community, and the world. So the overall story is important for all of the students to understand. And the other point is that they ought to have, even those that are just working on the Chairman's Award or communications, say, should have some idea what's going on with mechanical and control. So we've been giving these awards, now the Autonomous Award and the Creativity Award. These are, as you could probably tell, there's a lot of overlap between the awards, and there's a reason for that. It's because we want to try to, a lot of teams are so close in quality and excellence and so forth. We need to find who really is most deserving of that award for that piece. The other thing is that we want to share the wealth so that teams, we're not getting that everybody has an opportunity to be equally eligible for an award. And that's important. So we have creativity, excellence, professional approach to the design process. So that's one thing there. Creativity is just enhance it, is just not part of the robot design, but the way you're playing the game and that you figured out. Industrial design, we look at design principles, how robots find a balance between form, function, and aesthetics. Innovation and control, where we look at the control system and how it really provides success in the game. And then quality award, we look at robustness in concept fabrication. Of course, robots, to be eligible for the quality award, should not be falling apart, nor should pits be messy. So we want all pits to look great. Hello. Anyway, somebody's pounding there. Okay, so those are the machine awards. Then we have the team attributes award. We have engineering inspiration. We look at how your team is advancing respected engineering for engineering and technology within your school and community. The entrepreneurship award. And this has sort of changed a little bit in how it's done. To be eligible, you have to bring a summary business plan to each event to give to the judges in the pits and to explain to the judges how the plan helps to ensure the team's continued participation first. So this is more than just, profit and loss. We want to see how you're going to continue and how the team will continue to survive and succeed. It's gracious professionalism. We look at a lot of things. This is often awarded based on observations by comments made by other teams about your team. And we look at things, we get feedback from the referees. So gracious professionalism needs to be awarded to a team deserving it. And so we look at all aspects of the team. The Imagery Award honor Jack Kamen, or Dean Kamen's dad, who was a great artist. This basically look at the whole visual aesthetic integration of your machine and the team. And it's been really fascinating to see what you guys have come up with. There's the Judges Award, which is an ability to pick out a team that stands out uniquely but doesn't fall into any of the other criteria, but recognize that merits recognition. Rookie All-Star is that rookie All-Star that looks like it's basically a chairman's award in the making, sort of starting off. But again, you need 3 years, we look at continued success, continued work to get to chairman. So rookie All-Star, you can't get chairman's as a rookie, but rookie All-Star basically says you're going in all the right directions. Rookie Inspiration is, you're started off well, and you're helping promote the points of first, but not quite up to the level of rookie All-Star. And then Team Spirit, which basically is extraordinary enthusiasm and spirit, as we have known from a number of Israeli teams, including Shtaim Shtaim Echad Shtaim, which still echoes in my brain. Other awards that we don't judge but are determined by special panels: Woody Flowers, Volunteer of the Year Award, highest rookie seed determined by matches. So that's it for my presentation. and my voice. Any questions here?
I was wondering, at competitions, can you win a technical award and the chairman's award?
That's a good question, and the answer is no. So, any other questions here?
Our team was at Worlds last year, and they mentioned how international outreach isn't like as important as like sometimes working harder in your own community. Would you like agree with that, that you don't have to do things internationally, or it doesn't give you an advantage with other teams?
I would think that, yeah, I think that if you neglect, I would agree, because if you neglect your home community and just go out internationally, I mean, it's one thing if you're, one team on Cayman Brac, say, in the middle of the Caribbean, you have to go international. But in Israel, it's important to deal with your community and your country, and we would want to see a solid basis there.
I'm sorry for another question, but
Okay.
how important do you think having a creative presentation is to the chairman's award? Like, would a team that just has a slideshow versus a team that has a bunch of props for their presentation, is there any advantage there?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that sort of roundabout way, because what we look for is the impact of getting your message across. So if you have the option to do both, then I would present it to somebody who's not in first to see which approach gets it off first. Our team back in 2009, we had basically developed a running slideshow that was synced with our talks. The kids, just the timing of it all. So as they talked about something, an image would come up on the screen. That was very effective. And that's not a bad way to do it. Too many, I would just say too many props sometimes could do two things. One, takes up time setting up. Two, it can sometimes be confusing because the judges are trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? What do we really want to see? And then, but so you want to get, keep it simple, the KISS principle, keep it simple, to get the point across. But that's the whole point. Whatever you do that has the most impact at getting your message across is important.
Well, now I have a question.
Okay.
What do you think is the most important thing in the chairman's document?
Well, I outlined, what's on the website as to what you guys need to fill out in terms of the essay and so forth. The goal, as we go back to the slide at the beginning, was basically the, as I said, we look at the impact of your team on your students, the school, and the partnership with their mentors, sponsors, and community at large in a sustained way over the years. So that is what we want to take away from it. And so, and that's how, we have all these great teams doing all these great things. So it's really hard to figure out which is most deserving, because basically all the teams are deserving. They wouldn't have got the chairman's award in their regional or district if they hadn't been deserving. So it's very difficult. So I guess the whole thing is looking at the essay. This executive summary provides all the pieces of the puzzle. Those are all the things that you need to be doing. And then the essay is a part to bring it all together, to give us a flavor of what your team is like on a, what really the gestalt of the team, what is really there. And so creativity in writing the essay is good, because reading a lot of essays that just repeat the stuff in the executive summary really don't do it. But if you capture those points, bring it all together in a creative fashion, you can look at past winners. I'll just point you to the Technotics 236. I think our winning essay is still up after all these years. A student wrote it, and it's really great. And it talks, I think it uses ripples in a pond, which has been done by other teams, but it brings out the point of impact. What's the impact of your team? The analogy we used would probably not be popular today, because we're from old Lyme, and it was Lyme disease, which is a bloodborne disease spread by ticks. And I don't think anybody wants to compare themselves to a contagious disease at this point. So probably would not be an effective technique. Just saying.
Hi, I also have a question.
Sure.
Do you think that EI is like a second place chairman? Like both of them are prizes about a community?
It's a good question. There are a lot of, it's not so much second place, but recognizes a team that has made all the effort to focus on their community, and to in the inspiration part. That's the whole point, engineering inspiration. And that's how bottom line, when we're comparing the teams, say, okay, so which team has really done the best job inspiring the communities and so forth. And we're not talking, there at Chairman's, we're looking at stuff like teams you started, FLL, matches, and so forth, all these other things. But EI is more looking at how you've gone in the community and done things, inspiring stuff. I mean, there's abundant examples. I can't remember all the Israeli teams and what they all have done, but I mean, there's stuff going into children's hospitals and going into, old people's homes and so forth, retirement homes, and going in the community. And this is, those are the sort of inspiration. The other thing, frankly, is the effect you have on your community. And what made a difference, I think, with us is that I remember my wife got elected to the school board, and then we had a controlling number of parents on the school board. So we were able to actually help get recognition for first awards, just the same as athletic awards. We were able to, we were building a new school. So we were renovating the school. So we were able to renovate it so we could do off seasons there. So that's an idea of, an example of inspiration locally, and controlling, of getting things done. So that's where engineering inspiration comes in.
I have another question.
Okay.
Is opening a team more important than mentoring it?
That's a good question. I think it's sustainability, I think, is the point to look at. In other words, you could go and, drop kick a bunch of, teams, say you started them, but unless you're ongoing mentoring them on an ongoing fashion, as you suggest, it's more than just the starting. It is, I think you're getting to the right point. It's ongoing work with that team. I think that we recognize the persistence and so forth is an important thing. So, mentoring that team You know, maybe even if you did, even if you didn't start it, but going in and, you know, sometimes teams have ups and downs. We all know that. You know, sometimes you need to go in and teams, they lost their, you know, all their seniors graduated and they just have sophomores, and or maybe a key mentor left, and you know, they need help. And so you go in and help them out. And that's the sort of thing we look at.
Hi, I wanted to know what was the most memorable presentation you saw, or the most memorable
Oh boy.
or the most special document you read, and what made it so special?
That's a really good question. Uh, well, I can't mention specific teams. That's not fair to anybody. I think it was presentations. They gave us just not the numbers and so forth. Because remember, you only have 7 minutes, and you already put all this stuff in your submission, right? In your executive summary and your essay. But the teams that were able to convey who they were, what was unique about them, and how they did their stuff. I mean, there were teams that were in the north of Canada that, you know, had to go by snowmobile and, you know, through blizzards. And, you know, we don't look at hard luck stories, but we do look at how teams are able to accomplish the stuff they can with the resources they have. And so I think that, in answer to your question, the best presentations are those that give us a real sense of the team and where they came from and who they are. And remember, the other thing to look at it too is that we want to, frankly, use you guys as a sort of a sales point for FIRST. So we want to say, take your video, right, and go to a company and say, these are your future engineers. These are your future customers. These are, you know, these are people who, you know, we want you to help sponsor. So also think of it in that sense, in terms of, you know, your video and presentation. But that's important.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I also have a question. So in the whole chairman's package of presentation video and presentation video and essay, I feel it feels like the video often gets a bit neglected. So how much impactful would you say the video is overall compared to the presentation and essay?
Okay, so not at all. Okay, to be honest. Okay, the video again is what we want to represent you, and we want you to be able to use the video afterwards also as a way to go out and get sponsors and so forth, and to get funding for your team. So it's an important element. But the video, you see, it used to be that we had a production team, FIRST had a production team that would do a video of the teams and then present it with the chairman's award at the championship. But it was decided that it was much better for the teams to do it themselves. So that's where that came from. The judging process is on the submission and the interview, those two things, and not the video. But the video is a requirement. We want to, in order, so your ticket into the interview. So that it's important to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What happens when judges disagree about who should win? Like, which team is better? Like, is it basically, is it like who can argue the best for their team at that point?
Yeah, it's been interesting being a judge advisor in Israel because, yeah, there's, maybe 12 judges, but there's at least 15 opinions, right? And so, yeah, it's a real challenge. And we have different interviewing techniques. We interview, we re-interview. Israeli judges really want to make sure they're making the right decisions. And I'm really proud of all of these folks. And they'll go out and interview and talk to people and make sure they have all the facts. So we arrive at what's called consensus, where we basically all agree this team is the most, deserving. Not that the other team's not also deserving, but which team is the most deserving. So that's where we come to. But believe me, yeah, there's a lot of arguing. It's not a simple thing. You guys are all
You have a
really good team.
question
Yeah,
down in the chat.
in the chat. Okay, let me go see. Is there something you're always hoping to see? Ha! Great question. But never did. I'll have to think about that. I mean, the thing is that I've been in interviews with a lot of different teams and a lot of different, they've all done all sorts of different things. But I can't think of anything else I'd be looking for, frankly. I try to focus on, what the criteria that we set up, because that's the only fair thing to do, obviously from team to team. But that's the unique thing. And one thing to look at is look at the winning teams, what they've done with their videos and presentations, and that might give you a good idea of things that are important.
What do you think is the most crucial thing in the presentation?
Well, it's number one, how well you communicate. It's the clarity. Okay, I've seen teams, they have to get their presentation in within 7 minutes. So they try to jam in everything within that 7 minutes and talk as rapidly. Okay, that's a mistake. We have your submissions. We have the essays. We want to get to know the team as a team. We do want to know, what are the important facts. But the important thing is to make clear to the judges what impact the team has made. That's, the impacts in all these different areas. And there's a lot of different ways to communicate that, but there's no one single thing. It's just communicating the impacts. I think that's simply it.
I've always wondered, does it matter what time you give the presentation? So like sometimes in Michigan, people will say it's best to give it after lunch than like before lunch, or it's best to give it not at the end of the day. Do you think it matters?
No, because it's important we pay and give the proper attention to each team that it deserves. And that's a matter of respect. Whether our stomachs are growling or whether we're, or not, it's not the issue. It's our job to be professional in the sense of how we conduct the interviews and to give everybody a fair shake. Anyway, so that's basically an interesting question.
When you hear presentations, do you expect to hear big numbers or big executions of things? Because some groups don't have the ability to make things in a big environment because they are restricted only to a few places. Does it matter or not?
What matters is, and that's a very good question because it gets into the area of what team's capabilities are. And we look at what a team does given its capabilities. So if a team has, is a small team or in a remote area, those are things that need to be communicated, as that helps define your team and what you can do. So teams that do a great deal of work with, in their communities or whatever, we look at how many things you try to do or have done and have succeeded at. But just because a team has 150 members and your team has 25 doesn't mean that we're going to judge you. The bigger team automatically will be ahead of you. We look at how successful you were doing stuff with those 25 students. So that's the important thing.
Hi, I have another question.
Okay.
Do you think it's important, like, to present a speech for when presenting in a repeat, like for EI or other prizes that are present that we present in repeat, or like just talk about what comes to mind, like what you remember, or ask answer questions, like, because EI is more, it feels more like a conversation than a presentation.
Yeah, and I think, well, you're talking about what to do in the pits as opposed to, yeah, we're not looking for presentations in the pits. We are looking for conversations. We want it to be a back and forth thing where, it's important that students be able to talk about what their team has done, but we're not asking for a 5-minute, speech from the students. But they should be able to, talk about the various things that they've done. And then, but there is a conversation. You are correct.
And do you also think, like, a lot of people from other teams come and ask about community and also about the robot, but also about community. So it is, do you think it's more important for them to be able to present to other students than to judges?
Well, okay. So there's two levels here. One, for the communication with judges, is sort of telling us what you guys have done and how you've done it. That's important, but that's totally different from what you guys do talking to other students, and in the community. So you go to the town council, say, and you have, you're giving one talk. You may use, and that's what I was getting at, but using your the video that you created, that may be an effective communication tool, with your town council if you're looking for funding there, or with sponsors or companies. But we recognize that it's difficult. Not all students have equal capacity for presenting stuff, and some students have more stage fright. I mean, you guys are still developing early in your careers yet, and you're not, I mean, it's amazing how some students are really, really good at presentations, and, others aren't. And, we don't necessarily want to hide those in the back room, but nonetheless, it's important to, get those kids out front who can communicate it, but they need to, we want all students to be able to discuss things with the judges, to be clear.
I have another question.
Sure.
Is collaborating with other teams a positive thing for the chairmans or more negative?
It's always positive. Always positive.
But why?
It's the co-opetition. It's the whole point that we want people to be able to collaborate and work together as teams. You work as a team within your team and within your sub-teams. And then to be able to work with other teams to achieve a common goal. I mean, that's what it's all about. So that's the mission of FRC. So if you can do that successfully, that's great. That's what we want you to see. We want to see from you guys.
Now, do you think it's better if you start an initiative like by yourself as a team versus with other teams? Because then like at competitions, those other teams can report the same thing you can.
True. I think what you have to look at is don't look at that motivation for the initiative, but rather what's the best way to have success in that initiative. And if the best way to have success in that initiative requires cooperation between teams rather than one team doing it all by themselves, then that's the better way. So the whole point is to judge, how are we going to accomplish this successfully, not how will it look on my report card, okay? So we want to see success.
I also have a question.
Sure.
So in the Imagery Award, you said that you judge it based on how well the team presents like their aesthetic on the robot. But a lot of teams paint the robot on the colors. What can you do more?
Teams have been very creative, and I think one of the things I've seen with 3D printing has been a real creative use of adding color and adding features in interesting ways to a robot to help tell a story. The whole idea, again, art is a method of communication, and that's what Jack Kamen was all about, was communicating, and how you know, he was a cartoonist, and one of the things of the cartoon magazines got popularity as a way to you know, challenge in the 30s and 40s, to challenge Nazism and so forth, and to show superheroes and who could have positive attributes. And so that was all of what Jack Kamen was trying to communicate. And so what we're looking at is that sort of bringing the whole picture together of your team. It's more than color, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's more than color. It's the story. What's the story that you want to tell? And it's so you're using color, you're using images, you're using other creative devices. And again, you know, I've seen teams do all sorts of creative stuff. Other people just have a, you know, same color robot and same color shirts, and, you know, figure that's enough. Well, that's nice, but it's not quite enough. We want a sort of a step above that, you know. So, but anyway, so does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Does imagery play an impact in the Chairman's Award?
It's really not, you know, specified so much. Again, I would look at it from the standpoint of how is what your team doing going to impact and transmit the values at FRC. And if it does so by a very creative imagery process, well, then that's a factor. But the goal for chairmen is the impact of the mission of FRC. So how you get there is there's a lot of different ways. And if you're going to get there through a creative way, that's great. But, you know, and that should be mentioned. So you guys looking forward to a new season here? I'm really sorry to have missed this last year. I was down with living here in a multi-generational family with my grandson, my son. And so until he got immunized last month, that I was sort of restricted how I could travel. So anyway, but now then we all got COVID this week. So anyway.
Did you judge like while we all had to do Zoom presentations?
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of, I was doing also Dean's List interviews. I did that by Zoom. So we did a few. I didn't do chairman's this past year. I did an off season, well, no, I did Silicon Valley Regional, a regular event, but I wasn't doing, I did Dean's List and I did autonomous for that award. I didn't do chairman's. So, but we had been offering Zoom for remote interviews.
Can you talk more about what you look for in the Dean's List Award?
Boy, that's a whole different thing. Again, I guess the short story is that would this be a student, would this be a kid that you would hire to represent the values of FIRST? Who would you send this kid to the Chamber of Commerce or to the town council to help raise money? I mean, so it's just not their academic accomplishments. It's just not the bits they do for their team, but it's also how well they can really transmit and discuss the features of FIRST. And personally, what sort of, then we're looking at the person in a way. We look at the team, you know, for chairmen, we look at, you know, how much they're focused on getting to, not for themselves, but for their team, for the community. So does that give you a fair idea?
Yeah, and then how much does the mentor essay like impact that award too? So like if the essay was bad, does the student still stand a chance?
It's, let me say, the student could rescue themselves, okay, if need be. I mean, it's like we have the interviews often to verify things, and if everything seems, and if we can tell, we know, I've seen bad essays, okay, I know bad essays. So oftentimes it's like, okay, tell us about yourself. I mean, it's like, okay, so this is and the student, you know, because really it's a judgment on the presentation. So the mentor essays basically to list, okay, what they've done, what their role in the team was, and so forth. But it's the student, it's the interview we look at. So trying to find that video to show you guys. Okay, let me show you, let me share my screen again and show you guys this one, okay? Because I'm losing my voice right now anyway.
Small town was a big issue. For years, it's been infected with the spirit of FIRST, and most recently has become one of the largest localized sites of this infection. The first inspection began 11 years ago, and since then, all the cases have been well documented. This heavy influence stems from a small infected group who call themselves the technotics. They claim that they are benefiting the community and the nation itself by spreading the spirit of first. Think that you might be infected? Here are some of the most common symptoms: excessive energy, occasional shop-induced insomnia, an overwhelming desire to be gracious and professional, teamwork, an urge to spread the first spirit to others. Long-term symptoms include lifelong networking, a good job in the field of science and technology. After extended exposure in one site, unique symptoms arise. Here in Old Lyme, they manifest as wearing white and blue shirts and doing a crazy jig called the tick dance. A handful of extreme enthusiasts go so far as to wear the tick suit. Although these symptoms are not life-threatening, they are certainly life-changing and very contagious. From the very beginnings, the technotics have become very well known across the community, their state, and the country. Team 236 is spreading this infectious first spirit. 11 years of celebrating the spirit of first every day of the year, and especially Super Bowl Sunday, getting their school and faculty involved and interested. 6 years of providing every Connecticut FLL team with a place to play and every student with a medal, expanding to ever younger future scientists and engineers, and of course, always doing Dean's homework.
It's helped me be a more well-rounded person. All aspects of what first offer you is something you can use later on in life. The first program really got me interested in the engineering aspect of it.
To be that excited about science and technology, it was just an eye-opener for me.
You learn leadership and communication.
Being able to develop that skill at a young age and appreciate it is really great in the workforce later on.
I definitely did not know I wanted to be an engineer before I did first.
No matter where they go, they will probably meet someone that knows about first.
At RPI, some of the restaurants are from first. It's getting big. People are all over the place now.
They flat out told me that the reason they hired me is I was the only one that had first robotics on my resume.
It actually looks like they turned out pretty well. Found an interesting job, doing what they love to do, and seemed to be having a great time. Well, maybe all of this was because of their first experience. The first spirit is spreading everywhere, and it's spreading fast. As a matter of fact, Old Lyme has such a high density of this spirit that it's even affecting our cameraman.
So anyway, so that was our back 2009. So obviously that was a picture of me and my two sons who were inspired by FIRST to become engineers. And my older son is a computer engineer, specializes in AI, working with GlaxoSmithKline. And my younger son is a senior engineer now at Electric Boat, building the new class of nuclear submarines for the Navy. So it's, and this is the way I pay it back. And part of my family is Israeli, so I also come to Israel to pay back there. So